If you are dating or in a relationship with a man and you want to know how to stop him from being manipulative with you, or maybe you think that maybe he might be manipulative, but you're not really sure, or maybe you know that he is manipulative and you want that behavior to stop, or maybe even if you're single and you're kind of in this situation where you want to make sure that you don't get manipulated in a relationship in the future, how do you make sure that you stop the manipulation? How do you recognize it? How do you make sure it doesn't happen to you? We're going to be talking about that right now today. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast, and welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about how to stop from being manipulated. If you are ready to learn about how to make sure that you do not get manipulated, say yes in the chat and let's get started here. Okay, so the number one thing, I've got a bunch of different things here that you need to do. And the first thing that you need to do, and probably the most important one, is that you need to heal your past and get to a space where you get rid of any toxicity that you have. So why is this important? Why is it so important to heal the past? It's one of the things that most people don't want to do. And if you're unhealed, your insecurities, the walls that you have, and the triggers that you have will make it so that you'll find healthy behavior boring, right? So if somebody's being healthy and they're around you, you're going to be like, oh, like it's so boring, right? I can't wait for this toxicity to come back. Somebody with toxic behaviors, come back, because it's way more interesting, right? Which is true. It is more interesting. But when you've healed, all of a sudden it becomes less interesting and it becomes a big turnoff to you instead of being something that's exciting. If you don't heal yourself, you'll end up getting drawn into the drama. You'll allow men to walk all over you. You'll accept low-class behavior in. So you need to heal the wounds. You need to heal any childhood traumas that you have or past experiences with dating or relationships. You need to heal all of that stuff. If you're toxic, you'll project that onto other people and think that they're the ones who are toxic, which they might be, but you also are. And it becomes this big loop, right? Because you start spreading that toxicity around. You probably see this with toxic men, actually. They do something crazy and then think that you are the one that's the problem, right? And that is very common with toxic behavior because they don't even know, right? Like a lot of times you think that maybe they're being manipulative, but in reality, they think that you're the problem. They actually think that you're the problem. They aren't like just making that up and twisting it around to like mess with you. They legitimately think that you're the problem. And if you are toxic, that's how you're going to feel about other people. You're going to think everybody else is the problem. And that's why you have to heal. That's why you have to heal. Most of the time, people don't heal because or most people don't they don't try to hurt people, right? They're doing it because they actually think the other person is the problem. So make sure that you're not coming from a place of hurt or pain or living from your past lens of trauma, or else you'll end up bleeding onto people who didn't hurt you. And projection is just one of the ways that this happens. Instead, what you want to do is you want to do healing work. And so this is what it looks like. If you're not familiar with healing work, if you're like, hey, Matt, that's great, but how do I heal and how do I get to a space where I am not toxic and I want to make sure that I'm not toxic? And here's how you do it. You look at events that you have a lot of emotion around, right? If you still have a lot of emotion around an event in your past, that means that you haven't healed fully from it. And so what you want to do is you want to change the meaning of the past, shift around what that event means. Make it go from I'm not worthy, I'm unlovable, I'm somebody that is disposable, or whatever meaning you created around that event, and change it to this event is challenging me to be bigger and stronger and grow more and become a better woman and somebody who's capable of having the relationship that I want to have. You need to take ownership of who you are and how you behave. It's so very important. Most people don't want to do that. Let go and forgive whatever happened in the events. And it's not about them. Healing, forgiving, letting go. It's about helping you. It's about freeing you from past events and creating a space where you can grow and love yourself and all that kind of stuff. You need to learn to accept and love all parts of yourself, even the parts that you're most ashamed of. That's one of the most important things that you can do. And then change the story that you have of your life from being a story of struggle or trauma or a tragedy or whatever it is, to a story of victory, a story of creating what you want, a comedy, a romantic escapade, a journey, something. Change what kind of a story you're living in your life. And we'll talk about this more in another live stream because it's a huge, huge topic. Number 2 is build your belief in your own value. So if you don't believe in your own value, you won't take a stand for yourself. You'll allow yourself to be disrespected by men, by women, by children, by everybody. And so you want to believe in your own value. You'll allow your needs to be pushed aside, so you don't want to do that. If you do believe in your value, you will voice what it is that you want. You'll take a stand for your own value and making sure that you're being treated really well. You'll stop getting sucked into drama. You'll walk away when someone isn't treating you with love, respect, and kindness. So when somebody is manipulating you, this is the way that you should think about it. You should look at it as a test. It's a test to see if you've learned to value yourself or not. And it'll keep happening over and over and over again with the same or different people until you actually learn the lesson and start taking a stand for your value, for being respected, for what it is that you want in your life, for knowing that you deserve what it is that you want to have in your life, the relationship, the money, the respect, the self-respect, whatever it is that you want. Number 3, we're on number 3. And number 3 is learn what manipulative behavior looks like. So this is another huge topic, and I could probably talk about this forever. But what you want to do is you want to know when someone is actually manipulating you. What does it look like? How is manipulative behavior there? I'm going to go over 3 of the most common ways here. That way you can recognize it if it's happening, and you can stop doing it if you're doing it to other people. And so the first one is guilt. And guilt is something which says that you should feel bad about yourself because you didn't do something that the person is trying to get you to do. And so it usually sounds something like, I can't believe you wouldn't do whatever it is, right? Or you'd do it if you really loved me or cared about me, or, actually, whatever, right? You do this if you cared about me, right? It's just guilty behavior, right? It's somebody telling you that you should do something, and that because you aren't doing it, you should feel guilty about it, right? That's guilt. So the second kind of way of manipulative behavior is something called blame. And blame is just throwing the fault onto you. So they're like, hey, it's your fault, right? And so the way that this looks a lot of times is they'll say something like, I didn't do something because you didn't do this other thing, right? So they're blaming you for their own behaviors, right? I got angry. I was upset because you didn't take out the trash, or I didn't call you because you didn't tell me sweet things, or you didn't know that it was my birthday, or like whatever it is, right? That's blame. They're throwing the blame of their own bad behavior onto you. And it's manipulative, right? That's manipulative behavior. And then the third one that we're going to be talking about is victimhood. And victimhood is saying that you're hurting me because you're not doing what it is that I want you to do, right? So the way that this kind of looks is they'll say, and this is a very, very popular thing right now all over the world, specifically in the West. It's become like this really popular culture that we have of just jumping into victimhood, because when you're a victim, it's really easy to get a lot of attention. It's really easy to have people like give you sympathy and think you're important and all kinds of things. And so although it's what you're not getting when you're being a victim is love. What you're not actually getting is love. You're just getting temporary connection and in replacement of love. And so how does this look? What does this sound like when somebody is being in the victimhood thing? This is what it sounds like. They'll say something like, how can you break my heart when you know that I'm already hurting, right? How could you do that to me? You knew that I was hurting. How could you do this? Right? Or how can you deny me this when you know that I need it? Right? Like, how can you not go pick up something for me at the store when you know that I need it? Or, you didn't do it, whatever, right? So why would you do this to me, right? Why would you do this to me, right? That's victimhood. That's victimhood behavior, right? Man, this isn't a funny topic, so we're going serious here today. If you're with us right now, say hi in the chat and tell us where in the world you're watching this from. It's cool to see women from all over the world watching these live streams. Let's talk about number 4. Number 4 is you need to make sure that you are not being manipulative. So why is it important that you make sure you're not doing it? So you have no grounds for accusing somebody else if you are engaging in the manipulative behavior yourself, right? And manipulation breeds manipulation. So if you start being manipulative to somebody, that draws in more manipulative behavior. Because if you come to somebody who has high self-esteem and they believe in their value and they care about themselves and you are manipulative, they're going to walk away. If you come up to somebody who has low self-esteem and they don't believe in their value and all that kind of stuff, and you're manipulative, they're going to start being manipulative back to you, right? And they're going to keep engaging it, and you're going to get sucked into this drama, and then you're going to be pointing fingers at each other, right? And then you're going to be going all over the internet talking about how you're dating a narcissist and how do I trick him back, right? And all this other stuff. And it just turns into a big painful thing for everybody involved, including us, me, the rest of our community, because we have to watch it. So instead, what you want to do is stop engaging in the behavior or getting sucked into the drama. Just stop it. Just stop it. Don't stop his manipulation only to start your own. If you're being manipulative, break those habits, right? Start recognizing when you might be manipulative and start breaking that habit and start doing other things instead, right? Instead, what you want to do is reach out to him in a loving way, right? Or pull back from him and take some time for yourself before you come back in a loving way, right? You always want to be loving. And that's one of the problems that a lot of people have, is that instead of just being loving, they turn to like anger and accusations and treating other people really badly. And you have to be loving at all times. Otherwise, it doesn't turn into a romantic relationship. It turns into a world of pain. And you don't want to be in a world of pain. At least I don't think you do. I don't think you do. So otherwise, you'll get stuck in manipulative relationships, because the only people who tolerate it are people with low self-esteem or people who are also manipulative. Number 5. So change your perception of manipulative behavior. This is so important. Very, very important. This is something you want to think about and change and focus on. So most women get sucked into manipulative behavior and they try to change the man, right? They try to attract, get the man more attracted to them. They end up getting wrapped up in the drama. They feel more attracted to the guy, right? They try to do all this stuff, right? They get sucked into it. That's not what you want to do, right? Instead, you want to pull yourself back. When a guy's being manipulative, you don't jump in and try to fix him and, you pull back, right? You pull back And instead, you turn it into something and you start realizing that it's actually a big turnoff, right? We can actually control our associations that we have. A lot of our associations actually come from childhood, right? And so we watch our parents, and maybe they were manipulative to each other, or maybe one of our parents was manipulative to us. Usually for women, it would be the father figure. And we start associating love with manipulation. And so we're like, well, if he's not being manipulative, he doesn't love me. And then we're in this place where we're like, we need this drama and this pain and this manipulation because that's the model in our minds of what love looks like. And so you want to erase that. You want to take that and you want to turn it into a ball and you want to roll it up and you want to get a slingshot, like a really big slingshot, and shoot that ball up into the sun and allow it to just vaporize. And instead allow yourself to look at manipulative behavior as gross, right? It's disgusting. It's icky. It's like, manipulative behavior, and then just run the other direction from it, right? That's what you want to do. Just start running. Just start running the other direction. All right. If you get what I'm talking about right now, say yes. Say yes in the chat. If you get what I'm talking about. If you don't get what I'm talking about, go ahead and ask your questions. We'll go over some questions here in just a little bit. So number six, learn to set some boundaries. So often boundaries look like an ultimatum with varying degrees of consequences. That's what boundaries look like, right? So a lot of times people talk about ultimatums and they're like, ultimatums, I hear that ultimatums don't work. Well, ultimatums don't work because people are trying to use ultimatums in a manipulative way, right? They're trying to manipulate somebody with the ultimatum. And that's not what you want to do. You want to be real about it, right? You want to say, hey, this behavior is not acceptable to me in my life. And if you're going to engage in this manipulative behavior, I'm going to leave. I'm going to walk out and we're not going to be involved with each other at all anymore. And so it looks something like this. It sounds something like, I'd love to talk to you some more, but I'm not going to talk to you if you keep saying or doing X. I'm not going to talk to you, right? And that can sound like it's being manipulative, right? Because you're saying, I am only going to engage in this behavior with you if you engage in this behavior with me, right? It sounds like kind of a manipulative thing, right? Which to a certain degree it is, but the way that I define manipulation is using something in a toxic way, right? Doing something in a toxic way, trying to influence behavior in a toxic way. And, we can expand on that more, but when you're setting boundaries, it's not manipulative because you're not doing it to, to force somebody into something. You're not doing it because you're trying to hurt somebody. You're not doing it because you're trying to control somebody. You're doing it because you know that you deserve something better than what you're experiencing right now. And so number 7, and this is the last one that we're going to be talking about, is reward manipulative behavior with silence. Reward it with silence. So like I said, most women, they get caught up, they get sucked into it. They're texting back, they're calling up, they're showing up, wagging their finger, they're accusing, they're getting sucked into the drama. Instead, you want to let them know that the behavior is not acceptable, right? Set your boundary. And then if he continues engaging in it, you just stop talking to him completely. You just stop talking to him until he's willing to engage in healthy behavior, or you end up finding somebody else who's actually a lot healthier than he is because you don't want to be in a relationship with somebody that's toxic. And so if it doesn't stop, you have to walk away and never, ever, ever look back. That's what you want to do. So if you have a question, ask your question in the chat right now, and I'm going to go over the different things different steps to stopping yourself from being manipulated. Number 1 is heal your past and get rid of any toxicity that you have. Number 2 is build your own belief in yourself, your own belief in your value. Number 3 is learn what manipulative behavior looks like. Number 4 is make sure that you aren't being manipulative yourself. Number 5 is change your perception of manipulative behavior. Number 6 is learn to set boundaries. Number 7 is reward manipulative behavior with silence. And if it doesn't stop, then you just leave and you don't come back. That's what you're doing. All right, so if you got questions about anything, your situation, life in general, you want to talk about philosophy, love, business, the world, health, I'll talk about anything. Any questions well, not anything, but most things I'll talk about. Most things I'll talk about. What do we have? Nisha says, hi, Matt. Hello, Matthew. This is Dr. Truth, learning from you. My first time seeing you live. Well, thanks for being here. Thank you for being here. Toxicity is bad for your health. That's true. That is true. Don't drink poison. It's bad for you, kids. Jane says, how do I heal after losing a loved one? Well, that's a big topic. That's a big topic you asked there. But basically what you want to do, and I have lost a lot of people in my life. Like, just to let you know, I've lost a lot of loved ones in my life. I've lost a lot of good friends. I was in the military, lost good friends in the military. I lost good friends out of the military. And one thing that I can say about losing friends or losing loved ones just in general is that it's a very difficult thing, and you really need to just fully embrace it. I've got one tattoo on my body. I've got one tattoo on my body. And so it came from, it says amor fati, right? And amor fati, what it means is it's Latin. And what it means is like for the love of fate. And like amor is love and fati is fate. So for the love of fate. And what it means is to embrace whatever, right? Embrace whatever comes to you in life, embrace your destiny, embrace the pain, embrace the love, embrace everything. Just love everything that comes to you in your life. And I had a friend when I was in college, university, who's his name's Max. And Max was like, he's kind of the opposite of me, right? He's like super like into music and he's always dancing around. Because you only see me on these live streams, you probably think that that's what I'm doing all the time. But he had like this speaker on his backpack, and he'd like walk around and listen to music all the time and stuff. And it was really, really cool. And everybody loved Max, right? He would like send out we like built some businesses together, and we were running these like student organizations in the university together, and we would have parties, and like he would send out a text message, and 100, 150 people, 200 people would show up just from him sending out a text message, right? It was amazing. The guy was amazing. People loved him. If I sent out a text message, Max is the only person that would show up, and then Max would send out text messages and he'd have hundreds of people show up. It was pretty cool. And he went down to Brazil, and he was hanging out with some people he shouldn't have been hanging out with down there. And he ended up at the Christ the Redeemer statue down there, and he slipped on a rock at a waterfall and he hit his head, and he ended up, the people that were with him didn't take him to the hospital because they were on drugs and stuff. And he ended up dying. He ended up just bleeding until he died in his brain, right? And it was a really, really difficult thing. Like, he had amor fati written on his arm right here. And so to remember him, and to remind myself to just embrace and love life and embrace everything that comes in life, I got a tattoo of amor fati right here on my ribs. And what I'm trying to say with this is that what you should do, in my opinion and my experience, is, just remember the good times that you had together, and embrace the emotions that you feel from it, and take it in as much as you can. And at some point, you'll be ready to kind of let go of them, right? If you really just like embrace it as much as you can, just embrace all those emotions that you have. Just get to a point where you can let it go. And that's one of the best things that you can possibly do. Things might come up for you about things that you did that you felt like you shouldn't have done, or whatever, or you wish you would have said this to that person or whatever. And just make sure you're forgiving yourself for any of that stuff, and just get to a place where you can just fully embrace what's going on. And if you can do that, you have a good chance of healing and moving on. And so that's what you want to do there, Jane. I hope that helps. So yes, it's so true. Good morning. I love this, and so very true. Man cheated on me. That sounds horrible, Samantha. Hello. Julie Tree says, wants to reconnect with me. I don't want to get used. Definitely don't want to get used. Char says, a toxic person will always see you as the problem, and an unhealed person will always radiate towards someone that will abuse and blame them. Yeah. Exactly, Char. Char knows what's going on here. Listen to Char. Tina says, that's awesome. Mala says, I do take ownership in everything I do. It's important. It's important to take ownership. Jennifer says, that's a good topic. That's why I'm trying to work on myself and avoid. Yep. Samantha says, I still love my boyfriend even though he cheated on me. Well, there are a lot of different things that I have to say about this, Samantha. And, there's this kind of this one side where, there's two sides to every relationship, and there's kind of one side, which is him, which is like, obviously he doesn't have honor and integrity and all kinds of different, very important character traits. Because if he did, he would have broken up with you instead of cheating on you. And there's another side where, you want to make sure that, one, you're not with somebody who's cheating and doing abusive things and has toxic behaviors and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, you are responsible and the only person who can make sure that you get into healthy situations in your life. You can't force anybody else to do that, right? And no matter what you do, you may end up in a situation where somebody does something bad, and you have to reassess your situation and say, okay, am I going to stay in this situation because I have all these feelings towards this person, or am I going to respect and value myself and walk away from the situation? And, if he's just your boyfriend, you're not even in a real relationship according to what it is that we do here, right? Because a boyfriend isn't a real relationship, right? It's a trap. It's an exclusivity trap. And so if you're not married and you don't have kids and you can walk away, my suggestion is that you do that, because you need to make sure that you're in a situation where you have somebody who treats you well and who loves you and who respects you enough that if you have problems in the relationship, that he wants to work through them. And so if you are being cheated on by a guy and you're not married, you don't have kids, there's no super important thing that you need to get over in order to be with him, what you need to do is manage your emotions and say, okay, what's more important to me, this man, or being respected and honored and valued and cherished, and having a man who looks at me and sees you as being someone who's sacred, being someone who he couldn't ever think about cheating on because you're too important to him. You're too valuable to him. You're too amazing to him. He would never want to hurt you in that way. And he's too honorable to ever do something like that. That's the kind of man that you want. You don't want a man who cheats on you. That's it, Samantha. That's it. Yep. Char says you may be continuing to invite this behavior. Exactly. Tina says, is that related to self-actualization? Yeah, all of this stuff is related to self-actualization. I believe that life is about self-actualization. That's what I believe, that we are all on a spiritual path. I don't know what you believe in your life about God and the universe, or, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, but I believe that we are all on a spiritual path. And I believe that relationships are one path of getting to self-actualization and a higher version of our own spiritual self. And what relationships are a test, right? They're a test about who we're going to be and how we're going to interact with our life and what we're going to do. And every moment in a relationship, we get to decide how we're going to experience this relationship, what we're going to do. And relationships, they aren't super easy all the time, right? You have to make some hard choices and hard decisions, and you have to do things that maybe are uncomfortable, or you may get tested in a bunch of different ways. And so, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do, Tina? What are you going to do? Tell me what you're going to do in the chat, Tina. Let us know. Let us know what you're going to do in the chat. Rainia says you need to have high self-awareness. You need to understand people's attitudes. And next step is how to deal with it. Yep. Lovely advice. Drama is complete. No. Nanny says manipulation is when they blame you for reaction to their disrespect. Right. That's blame. Right. That's blaming. People who use other people as stepping stones will one day lose their balance. Ooh, it's a good metaphor. It's a good metaphor you got there, Nanny. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeshua says, what is amazing is when I turned 50, I decided to stop feeling like the victim and be my inner self that I was when I was 18. Yeah, I mean, who have you let go of? When you ended up, I mean, a lot of times what happens is we have difficult times in our life, right? We have challenges that come up. We have relationships that don't work out. We have people in our life who disappoint us. We disappoint ourselves. All kinds of things happen. And a lot of times we lose that part of ourselves that we really loved, that really made us who we are, that innocence, or that part of us, that youth part of us that danced, that liked to sing, that, just played through life, that allowed ourselves to just, experience life and create and draw and just have life as a canvas that we are just drawing on and creating. And who would you be if you took that back on? Who would you be if you took that part of yourself that you really admired when you were younger and you took that back on? Good question there, Yeshua. Now, 6 months later, love was able to come into my life. Well, congratulations on that. Congratulations. Rafiza says your speech is very interesting. Well, thank you. Thank you, Rafiza. Char says, I can't handle anyone that is overly affectionate or possessive of me. I rid myself of them immediately. Okay. Rania says, some people say I hate drama and I'll get rid of whomever caused it. And most of the times it's them causing it without them realizing it. Rania is calling everybody out in the chat right now. She's like, good one there, Rania. Good one there. Maddie says, I don't like that word should. No, I shouldn't do. I don't even use that word because other words can be used instead. Well, you definitely don't want to should all over yourself. That's for sure. Don't should. Don't should all over yourself, Maddie. Maddie, don't be shoulding on yourself. Don't be shoulding on yourself, Maddie. You don't want to should on yourself. Ula says, thanks for these words on my side. I feel terrible, bad, by this all. Long time. I am just waiting for years of time. Okay. Okie dokie. All right. Does anybody have any questions here? Let's do some questions. Let's do some questions. April says, hi from AZ. I had a guy asking for pics and encouraging sexual interaction. Then when I gave in after weeks, he told me, I don't want you to think bad of me. You don't have to do that for me. I'm nobody. Can you decipher this? Yeah, it's called low self-esteem, April. That's what it's called. That's it. It's low self-esteem, right? He's trying to get validated by you, right? By validating his sexual worthiness, right? His attractiveness, his sexuality. And you're coming in and you're like, okay, I'll do it, right? And then he's like, whoa, I'm just nobody. You don't actually have to do this. You don't have to do this, April. You don't have to do it, right? And so what you probably shouldn't do is you probably shouldn't do that, right? In fact, you definitively shouldn't do it. And he's warning you of that right now. He's like, hey, like, you need to realize that I'm nobody, right? You don't know me, whatever. And, you don't have to do this. And he's right. You shouldn't do it. And he probably is nobody. And you should definitely not give him any pics or sexual interaction with him, especially if you haven't met him or anything. Just stop doing that stuff. Stop it. Stop it, April. Just stop it. Joey says, hi, cutie. Southern California on the coast, the beach. Love the beach. SoCal. I'm looking at going to SoCal here soon, actually. Mala says, this reminds me of the last guy I dated for 4 months. Okay. For 4 months. Who has a question? Who's got a question for me? Nanny says they are surrendered with flying monkeys. I don't know what that means, Nanny. Flying monkeys. Where are the flying monkeys? Who's surrendering? What's going on with the flying monkeys, Nanny? Tell us. I want to know about the flying monkeys now. Okay, so what else do we have? Yeshua says, what is great with the person who loves me is I am his first real relationship. We both think the other one is perfect, and we both want to live the rest of our lives together. Well, that is just absolutely adorable. And I'm glad that you found that, Yeshua. Glad you found it. I'm glad that you found it. I'm so, so glad. So glad that you found it. What are you asking, Mala? Mala says, after doing all this, that you say, when do you see results? Well, it depends on what you mean by seeing results, right? If you're talking, and depends on what you're talking about with what it is that I'm saying, right? With the healing stuff, you start seeing results pretty quickly, right? And this is actually the way that it works, because that's a good question. If you're talking about healing stuff, like how long does it take before things start working? When you start healing, what will start happening is you'll start getting tested again, right? Because this is how the universe works. Is you start healing and the universe starts dropping bombs on you of tests about the same stuff that you were getting tested about before. So manipulative guys, friend with benefits situations, all those kinds of things are going to show up in your life. And you're going to be tested with it, right? But there's going to be something a little bit different about it this time, because you might still get sucked into it, or you might get sucked into the drama or whatever. And you're going to be like, wait a second, there's something wrong here. There's something that I don't like about this. And if you change your actual associations, like you start making it feel gross that he's doing this stuff, like he's being manipulative or he's engaging in manipulative behavior, that'll start working pretty immediately. But it'll still kind of have this feeling of there's something weird and different about this. And over time, what will happen is you'll just start going, you know what, this is not what I want. I don't want to be in this situation. And you'll start getting more level-headed about it. And then eventually you'll be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then manipulative people or somebody trying to do something with you will show up, and you'll immediately just shut it down and be like, I'm not doing that. I don't want this. I'm not interested in this behavior. And when they do it, you're going to let them know that you will feel totally disinterested. And you'll be like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And they might even try to suck you back in, one last time. And you might even get sucked back in one last time. And then it'll happen and you'll be like, I'm done. I'm done, right? You've done it again. I was dumb enough to come back in, and now it's over. You need to get out of my life. I don't ever want to see you again. Goodbye, right? And so that's what it'll end up looking like. I hope that makes sense there, Mama. And you really have to experience it. GT says he ghosted. Where do I go now? Well, you date other people. That's what you do. Depends on what you mean by ghosted, right? I just did a write-up about this in our community. I'll actually let me post it in the chat. Post it in the chat. I did a write-up about ghosting because there's a lot of confusion about what ghosting is and all that kind of stuff. And so if you're interested in ghosting, check out my article that I did. I'm posting it in the chat right now, so you can go check it out. So Kemi says, what if you're married to such a person? How will you go about that? Well, you still have to do kind of the same thing, right? Because if you get sucked into it, right? A lot of times people are like, well, but I'm in this situation. And so how do I go about it now that I'm in this situation, right? And it's the same situation. It's just a different agreement that you guys have, right? And so your agreement with marriage, assuming that you're from the West and that you're Christian and all that kind of stuff, is that you are going to work things out together and that you're both committed to making this work. And so the strategies that I talked about are the same strategies. You still need to believe in your value. You still need to make sure you're getting rid of your own toxicity. You still need to make sure you're not being manipulative. You still need to make sure that you are setting boundaries and you're changing how you feel about the manipulative behavior and all that kind of stuff. And you're giving silence when he's acting manipulative, and you're walking away when he continues to do that. The only difference is that you're probably going to give him more chances because you're married to him, right? Marriage doesn't quite mean the same things today as it used to. And at the same time, you did make a commitment, right? You made a commitment that you were going to be with this person and do whatever it takes in order to fix things. However, it takes two to tango, right? It always takes two to tango. And it doesn't matter anything else. My suggestion is that you do not engage in manipulative behavior. And so he gets to choose. Does he want to save his marriage, or does he want to continue being manipulative, right? And you can point out manipulative behavior, and you're just like, but you don't want to get sucked into it. You don't want to get angry about it. You don't want to fight about it. You don't want to, do any of that kind of stuff. What you want to do is just point it out and just be like, hey, there it was again. That's blame. There it is again. That's, victimhood. There it is again. That's guilt. And then just be like, when you want to interact with me and not do these things and not try to guilt me, let me know. We can continue this conversation, because I'd love to work things out, and I love you to death, and I want to have an amazing marriage where we both absolutely cherish each other and we're both on the same side. And I'm not going to put up with this behavior. It's not, it's beneath both of us. We are better than this. We're better than this behavior, right? You want to be on his side. You want to be there together with him and say, hey, look, we're in this together, and I'm not going to be manipulated, right? It's this behavior that's the problem. It's not you. It's the behavior, right? It's this manipulation. And I want to be with you. We just have to get rid of this manipulation. And if we can do that, then we can be together and we can actually connect and we can love each other like we did at the beginning. We can love each other like we did when we decided that we wanted to get married to each other. Doesn't that sound amazing? Doesn't that sound like exactly what it is that you want? Where we have peace and love and connection, where we just honor each other and we cherish each other and we care about each other and we look each other in the eyes and we remember that spark that we had that made us want to, commit ourselves to each other for life, to allow our souls to merge and combine and be one in this life. And I want to honor that. I want to continue doing that. But we have to get rid of this stuff, this habit. And that's what you want to do. Does that make sense there, Kimmy? Kemi? I hope that makes sense. I hope that helps. Priya says, he will go one day that he loves me so much. After 2 days, will go like not sure about the relationship and so tired of this behavior. Yeah, I would be tired of that too. Tina says, is trying to get positive attention like influencing their opinion of me, manipulation? Well, it depends on what you mean by that. And it depends on where you're coming from when you're doing it, right? Because we all want people to look at us in a positive way, right? We all want everybody to look at us in a positive way. But where are we coming from when we're doing that, right? Are we coming from a place of scarcity and fear? Or are we coming from a place of love for ourselves and for others and wanting to help other people and build them up and make them better and stronger and healthier, and in so doing, contributing to their life so that they look at us in a more positive light? Or are we tearing them down? Are we forcing them to do stuff? Are we caging them? Are we restricting their freedom? Are we, being manipulative, right? Are we being manipulative in order to get what we want? Or are we giving them freedom and honoring them and respecting them and building them up? That's the question that you want to ask yourself there, Tina. Is it toxic or is it healthy? Is it toxic or is it healthy? That's what you want to know. All right, Cindy. Cindy says, hey, Matt, thank you for all your advice and love your singing. Well, I appreciate you loving my singing. I appreciate you loving my singing. Char says, don't worry about their actions. Worry about your own actions. That's right. That is right. Char's got it, man. Char knows what she's talking about. My baby says, my boyfriend wanted to get back together with me, but I said I didn't want to get back together right that moment, but he forced me. Well, you need to stop. You need to stop allowing him to control your behaviors, right? He forced me. He forced you? Did he force you? Did he force you? Or did you give in? That's the question that you want to ask yourself. One is blame, right? One is saying, I'm blaming him for my own behaviors. And the other one's taking responsibility and saying, I decided this, and it was to give up and give in, right? So you might want to rethink what you're talking. You might want to rethink what you're saying there, muy babies. GT says he talks to me when he needs support. He said he doesn't want to hurt me and that I deserve better. Well, GT, if somebody tells you that they don't want to hurt you and that you deserve better, believe them. Believe them 100% that you deserve better. You got to believe him. You got to believe him. He is giving you a message. He's giving you a sign right now, GT, saying, warning, red flags. He's throwing red flags into your face. He's got a bucket of red flags and he's throwing them over your head. He's dancing with them like this. He's like, red flags. I got red flags all over the place, right? And you're like ignoring the red flags, right? Because you're like, oh, but I'm really attracted. I love you, right? You don't want to do that. You do not want to do that. You do not want to do that. Michelle says, my ex hated silence. It drove him crazy when I wouldn't engage. Made him worse. The PMS doctor says, can you give good examples for setting boundaries? I hear so many try and set boundaries, and it sounds like more manipulation. Yeah, this is how you want to set a boundary, right? You want to first tell them what it is that you want. You want to tell them what the boundary is. And then you want to ask him whether he agrees with it, right? So it sounds something like this, right? So let's say that he's trying to convince you to show up at his place for a booty call, right? And you just started dating or something like that. It sounds like something like, you tell them what you want, where you say, hey, I'd love to, that sounds like it's a lot of fun and I would love to do that sometime in the future, right? So that's telling them what it is that you want. And then you say, however, right? However, it's important to me that, and whatever your boundary is, that I really get to know somebody. I'm in a relationship. I have a lot of comfort and trust and friendship with a man before, I go over to his place. And then you ask if he agrees. How about we meet for lunch sometime this week instead, right? So you're telling him what you want, you're telling him what the boundary is, and then you're asking him if he agrees to it. That's how you set a boundary. So, he says, hey, he sends you a text message. He's like, hey, Miss PMS doctor, you got such a really interesting name. Why don't you come on over to my place and maybe we can, kind of dance a little bit together tonight, if you know what I'm saying, right? And you're like, whoa there, Mr. Fast Man. That sounds really interesting to me, and I'd love to do that sometime in the future. However, I need, it's really important for me that I'm in a relationship before I go over to a man's house and, over to a man's place and sleep with him or something like that. How about, we meet up for lunch sometime this week instead, right? That's it, PMS doctor. Does that make sense? So, there's an element of, if you don't do this, it's kind of over. But at the same time, you're serious about it, right? This is actually like your boundary. You're saying, hey, I value myself. I look at myself and I say that my time and my life and my body and my attention, my love, my commitment, all of that is really valuable. And if you want to be with me, then you need to go this other path, right? And so it's one of the things I talk about, especially in my Forever Woman program. I talk about this idea of shining a light, right? Shining a light towards the relationship that you want, and then allowing a man to take you there. That's what you do when you shine a light. Hey, I'd love to do this at some point in the future, right? You're telling him that because you don't want to make him think that you're totally rejecting him. Instead, you're like, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun. Like really it does. It sounds like a lot of fun. I'd love to do that at some point in the future. However, it's really important to me that I'm in a relationship first, right? And here's one of those things where a lot of women kind of freak out about that thing because they're worried about what a guy is going to think of them because they're being honest about what it is that they actually want, right? Like everybody's scared right now to talk about what it is that they want. Like I say, beginning today, PMS doctor, I say beginning today, let us declare, let us set a new standard. Let us take a stand. Let's take a stand for being radically honest with each other, right? Instead of playing all these games and pretending something else that we do or we don't want something, how about we just be honest with people and they get to decide whether they want to be a part of this or not. And if they do, that's great. And if they don't, good luck in life, right? And stop trying to, play games with each other and manipulate each other into being into the kind of relationship that you want to have, taking the guy and being like, okay, well, there's just one guy and I'm going to wrap him up into a bow and, dress him up like he's a Ken doll and put him on my mantle so everybody can walk by and look at him. And instead being like, hey, I'm going to accept you and love you for exactly who you are. But that doesn't mean that you get to be in my life. You only get to be in my life if we're growing in the same direction, if we're going in the same way. And if we're not, cool, that's great. I'm sure that you will find somebody else, just like I will, and having an abundance mindset instead of being in this world of scarcity. Because it's all that scarcity that makes us want to manipulate other people and control them and force them and hurt them and all that kind of stuff, right? And so let's get out of scarcity. Let's get into valuing ourselves. Let's get into loving ourselves. And let's hold a new standard for ourselves and the people who come into our lives. And finally say, that we are only going to accept people who want to exhibit high-class behavior around us. Let's be high-class people. Let's do it. Let's all do it. Let's do it. And so lastly, we're going to finish this like we do many of the other ones. And first, what I want you to do is just take a deep breath in and just exhale. Take another deep breath in and exhale. Take another deep breath in and just exhale any stress or any worry or anything that's in your life that's just causing you pain or frustration or making you not accept what's going on in your life. And let's just have a moment of stillness. A moment to remember that we are spiritual beings, that we deserve something great. That we were born onto this earth and we didn't have to prove ourselves in order to be here. We were given the most precious and sacred thing in the entire universe. We were given it freely. We didn't have to dance around. We didn't have to show that we were enough. We didn't have to pretend like we were somebody we weren't. We were given this gift of life, a gift of this beating heart that we have, a heart that as long as it beats, we live. And so let's end with the Queen's mantra. Let's end with remembering that we're valuable, that we're worthy, and that we deserve to be cherished. We say it 3 times every time when we do it. Here we go. I'm valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. And I want you to leave here remembering deep in your heart, deep in your soul, that you are valuable, you are worthy, and you do deserve to be cherished. You deserve to have all the love that you want. You deserve to have a man who treats you well, who loves you, who looks at you and says, this is the one woman that I want in my life. I don't want anyone else. I love her and I cherish her and I value her too much to ever be manipulative. She inspires me to be stronger, to be bigger, to be more of the man that I want to be. And I want to honor her. And so remember to honor yourself. Remember to be here for yourself. Remember to love yourself. Remember to value yourself. Because just by the very fact that you are here with us right now on this earth, listening to me, it proves that you have something that is absolutely sacred within you. You are sacred. Remember that. That's it for this video. I'll speak with you again in the next one. And always remember, you are worth it. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good evening. Have a good morning wherever you are in the world. And I'll speak with you again.